Today, we're tackling something that's becoming one of the most common conversations happening around American kitchen tables right now. Picture this. Your adult child sits you down. They've been saving for years. They've got a decent job. And they look at you and say, "Mom, Dad, we don't think we'll ever be able to afford a house." And here's the wild part. They might actually be right. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because the math has changed dramatically. So today, based on a really useful piece from Kiplinger by Emma Patch, we're going to walk through 5 real ways parents and grandparents can help their kids buy a home. The gifts, the loans, the co-signing, all of it. Plus the tax traps and family landmines you absolutely need to know about. Stick around until the end, because the last one trips up so many families. Let's start with a number that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. According to the National Association of Realtors, the median age of all home buyers in 2025 was 59 years old. 59. That's up from 56 in 2024. And the typical first-time home buyer? 40 years old. An all-time high. Just let that sink in. There's a whole generation that, without help, may not own a home until they're collecting Social Security. Why? 3 things colliding at once. Home prices that keep climbing, mortgage rates that haven't come back down, and an inventory shortage that means there's just not enough houses to go around. That's why so many parents and grandparents who can help are asking, what's the smartest way to do this without blowing up our retirement or our family? Kiplinger lays out 5 main paths. Let's go through them one by one. Option number 1. The intra-family loan. This is where you, the parent or grandparent, basically become the bank. Here's why it's actually pretty clever. Right now, the average yield on a bank savings account is about 0.6%. Meanwhile, your kid would be looking at 30-year mortgage rates that are significantly higher. So if you lend them money at, say, 4.83%, you're earning almost 4 percentage points more than your savings account, and they're paying way less than they would to a regular mortgage lender. Win-win, right? Tim Burke, the CEO of National Family Mortgage, makes a really interesting point in the article. He says, for a lot of well-off parents, lending instead of gifting isn't really about the money. It's about accountability. It's about teaching the financial responsibility that comes with ownership. There's a couple in the piece, Mary and Terry Schaefer from Pittsburgh, who lent money to both their kids to buy homes. Mary's quote really stuck with me. She said her kids do not like things handed to them, although they deserve to be helped. They have worked hard. That's the spirit of an intra-family loan. But, and this is critical, you have to do it right. Put it in writing. Treat it like an arm's-length transaction. Brian Lamborn from Northwestern Mutual recommends building in contingencies. Like, what happens if your kid loses their job? Maybe payments get deferred for 6 months and pushed to the end of the loan. What happens in a worst-case scenario? You should even spell out under what conditions you could foreclose. And here's a tax landmine. If the loan is over $10,000, the IRS requires you to charge at least the applicable federal rate, the AFR. They publish it monthly. And the interest you collect? Yeah, that's taxable income. You have to report it. If all this paperwork sounds exhausting, you can use a service like National Family Mortgage. They'll set everything up, send statements, issue the tax forms. Costs about $1,175 to $1,875 up front, plus around $20 a month for servicing. Option number 2. Skip the loan, just give a gift. For a lot of families, this is honestly the cleanest path. No paperwork drama, no awkward Thanksgiving dinners about missed payments, no risk to the relationship. Mortgage lenders are generally fine with parents covering the entire down payment. They'll just want what's called a gift letter, a simple document stating the giver's name, the amount, and confirming there's no expectation of repayment. Now, here's the part everyone wants to know, the tax stuff. In 2026, you can give up to $19,000 per person to as many people as you want without filing a gift tax return. So if you're married, you and your spouse together can give up to $38,000 per recipient per year. So between mom and dad, you can give your daughter $38,000 and your son-in-law another $38,000. That's $76,000 toward a down payment, completely free of any gift tax filing requirement. What if you go over that? Don't panic. You just eat into your federal estate and gift tax exemption, which for 2026 sits at a whopping $15 million per person, or $30 million for married couples. So unless you're sitting on serious wealth, this isn't really a concern. But here's the line that I want you to tattoo on your brain. Jennifer Weber, a certified financial planner quoted in the article, says, "There are no loans when it comes to your own retirement. You cannot borrow for retirement. Don't gift your kid into a house and yourself into a ramen noodle retirement." Option number 3. Co-signing or co-borrowing on the mortgage. This one's for the parents whose kid has the income to make payments, but doesn't have the credit history or score to qualify on their own. You step in as a guarantor. But honestly, read this section twice before you say yes, because the risks are real. If you co-sign, you are legally on the hook. If your kid misses a payment, your credit takes the hit. And it's not just abstract damage. Co-signing increases your debt-to-income ratio, which could make it harder for you to borrow money for your own needs. Want to refinance your own house? Buy a car? Suddenly, you might not qualify because on paper, you're carrying a mortgage that isn't even on a property you live in. There's a slightly different arrangement called co-borrowing, where you and your child jointly own the loan and share responsibility from day one. With this setup, you usually need to put down at least 20% combined, and your kid has to come up with the first 5% of that down payment from their own funds. Why? Because if it doesn't look like the kid has any skin in the game, the lender treats the property as an investment property, which means a higher interest rate and stricter reserve requirements. And again, if your kid falls behind on the mortgage, property taxes, or insurance, your credit gets dinged, and there could even be a lien on the property. The bottom line on co-signing? It should be a last resort, not a first move. Okay, and this is the part I really want you to hear, because it's the one that gets glossed over and causes the most lasting damage. Family dynamics. Mitchell Krauss, a certified financial planner from Santa Monica, says something in the article that's just devastating in its simplicity. We've seen years of resentment coming from a small loan to one family member when it was not available to another. Years of resentment from a small loan. So if you have more than one kid and you're helping just one of them, even if there's a perfectly good reason like the other one isn't ready to buy yet or already got help with grad school, you need to talk about it out loud, together. Maybe not in a big group meeting, but at minimum each child needs to understand what's happening and why. There's also the in-law factor. Your child's spouse may feel weird accepting money from you. They may feel like it changes the power dynamic in their marriage, or that they're somehow less than because they couldn't get there on their own. That's a real emotional thing, and pretending it doesn't exist is how relationships fracture. A few practical tips on this front. 1. Write down what you do for each kid, and over time, aim for fairness. Doesn't have to be identical, but it should feel equitable. 2. If you're giving a gift, consider whether it's protected if your child eventually divorces. Talk to an estate attorney. 3. Keep your other kids in the loop, even if just at a high level. Surprise resentments at the funeral are a real thing. So let's recap. You've got 5 real options for helping your kid buy a home: an intrafamily loan, an outright gift, co-signing, co-borrowing, or just buying the place yourself. Each has tax implications, each has emotional implications, and every single one needs to be measured against the most important question of all. Can you actually afford this without sacrificing your own retirement security? Because here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. Your kids will eventually figure out a way to live somewhere. Maybe it'll take longer. Maybe it'll be smaller. Maybe they'll buy with a partner or relocate to a cheaper city. But if you run out of money in your 80s, they're the ones who'll have to figure that out too, on top of everything else. So help if you can, generously, but help smart. If this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel. Subscribe for more breakdowns like this one, and drop me a comment. Have you helped a kid buy a home, or are you the kid who got help? What worked? What didn't? What would you do differently? I read every single one. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you in the next video.